If you're still in a high-cost city and you're telling yourself, it's fine, I'll just grind a bit longer, I need you to hear this. A lot of people already did that, and then they left anyway. This isn't about being soft. It's about the odds. ABS data has NSW as the state Australians are most actively departing, with a net loss north of 28,000 interstate movers. So I'm going to walk you through the 8 big pressure points, where the exits are, where the crowd is running, and what you'll hate 2 months after you arrive. Number 1, New South Wales. So let's start with New South Wales, the state people swear they'll never leave. Right up until the rent jumps again and your commute turns into a second job you didn't apply for. You're in NSW because that's where the real jobs are, right? The big brands, the big pay, the big LinkedIn energy. Sydney salary, Sydney status, Sydney everything. You tell yourself it's worth it because you're close to the action, and one day you'll cash in and buy something normal with a tiny yard and a lemon tree and a life that doesn't feel like a constant checkout line. But the numbers are not being cute. ABS data has NSW as the biggest leak in the country, with a net interstate loss north of 28,000 people. That's not people moving around. That's a steady drip of I'm done energy. Let that sink in. And when I say done, I mean you're paying luxury pricing for basic life. Like, not fancy stuff. I mean the privilege of having a roof, parking your car, and buying groceries without doing mental math like you're defusing a bomb. A normal house starts to feel like a limited edition item, like a PS5 at launch where you're refreshing listings at 6 a.m. and still losing to some guy who just wants an investment property. Here's the thing. This isn't you being bad with money. This is math being violent. Housing supply lags, demand stays hot, and wages do not jump at the same speed as rents and prices. So you can be doing everything right and still feel like you're sliding backwards because the target is moving while you're running at it. And you see the same pattern over and over. People go, okay, 1 more year, I'll grind, I'll skip trips, I'll cook at home, I'll save a deposit. Then 12 months later, they check the market and realize the deposit they were chasing just got taller. They didn't fall behind because they spent too much. They fell behind because the finish line sprinted. The sneakier part? It's not just Sydney anymore. Regional NSW used to be the fine, I'll just go 2 hours out solution. Now you've got these mini price bubbles where the cute town you thought was your escape has Sydney money already baked in. So you move, and you still pay a lot, and now your nearest everything is far, and don't even get me started on the drivers on those weekend highways when everyone has the same sea change idea. So when people start leaving NSW, the first lifeboats are obvious. But here's what nobody tells you. Those lifeboats fill up fast, and once they do, the price tag follows the crowd. The real reason NSW loses people isn't that it's bad. It's that it turned basic stability into a premium subscription, and at some point you look at the monthly fee and you cancel. And if you think that's wild, the next stop is the place people used to call the cheaper big city, until it started acting like one. You're not ready for what's next. Number 2, Victoria. Victoria's the plot twist because it's not the cheap friend. It's the friend who used to be a bit of a mess, then suddenly started meal prepping, got a raise, and now people from up north are sliding into their DMs like, hey, you up? And I know what you're thinking because you're not wrong. Melbourne's not affordable. It's still a big city with big city bills. So why are people still moving there like it's the new secret menu item? Because the data flipped. Early 2025 numbers show Victoria pulling its biggest interstate influx in 6 years. For the first time since the end of 2019, more people moved into Victoria than left it. Melbourne itself clocked a net gain of 940 interstate movers in the first quarter of 2025. That's not a rounding error. That's a mood change. Let that sink in. Here's the thing. It's not that Victoria is cheap. It's that compared to Sydney, the deal looks less unhinged. Melbourne's median house value is sitting around $956,000, and it only rose about 2.1% over the past year. Meanwhile, if you even glance at Sydney's city and inner south, prices start around $3 million. 3 million. That's not stretch goals. That's sell your organs on Facebook Marketplace money. So you get these buyers who spent months getting body slammed at Sydney auctions, and they land in Melbourne like they've seen combat. They're jumpy. They flinch when someone says another bidder. They just want a normal contract, a normal inspection, a normal Saturday where they're not emotionally preparing to lose by $400,000 to a guy on speakerphone. But here's what nobody tells you. Victoria has its own little tripwires. You've got land tax chatter that freaks investors out, and that can flow straight into the rental market because landlords love passing pain downhill. You've got insurance shocks in some pockets too, the kind where you open the renewal email and you actually say nope out loud. And Melbourne sprawl? Real. You can buy affordable out in the growth corridors and then spend your life doing the same long-haul commute thing, just with different roads and a different type of road rage. Don't even get me started on the drivers when it rains. It's like everyone forgets the break exists. And the influx changes the vibe fast. Rentals get tighter, inspections get crowded. You rock up thinking you're early and there's already a line that looks like a sneaker drop. 40 people, all pretending they're chill, all silently calculating how much above asking they'll offer. So if you're moving for affordability, don't get hypnotized by the lower sticker price. The only number that matters is your monthly burn after the move. Mortgage, commute, heat, rates, childcare, all of it. If that number doesn't feel lighter, you didn't escape. You just changed the wallpaper. Victoria isn't a rescue boat, it's a swap. Less Sydney pressure, but you're still playing the big city game, and the rules get weird the minute you think you've cracked it. Because the next place on this list, you're not ready for what's next. Number 3, Northern Territory. The Northern Territory is the one people talk about like it's a cheat code. Like you're gonna move up there, grab a fat paycheck, buy a house for the price of a used ute, and laugh at the East Coast from your porch. And yeah, on paper, it messes with your head. You see cheaper housing, and you see certain roles paying big, and you start thinking, wait, have I been getting scammed this whole time? Because if you're burnt out, the NT looks like hitting reset in a video game. But here's the catch. The NT runs on churn. People roll in for work and they roll out when the gig's done. That's the whole vibe. It's not set up like a we're all here forever place for most people. It's more like a rotating cast where you keep meeting cool people and then they vanish. A lot of the job market is tied to government, defense, mining, and short contracts. Which is awesome when the money is landing. You're feeling rich. You're finally breathing. Then the contract ends, the next role isn't lined up, and suddenly you're pricing flights and they cost like a new iPhone. Not even the base model, the one with the storage you don't need. And the lifestyle part is where people get humbled. The heat doesn't do cute, grab a gelato summer. It does, why is my car seat trying to kill me heat? You run errands like you're planning a military op. Park in shade, sprint inside, back out, pray the AC wakes up before you melt into the steering wheel. Also, your social circle can reset fast. You'll make friends, you'll get a little routine going, and then half the group leaves because their posting ended, their partner got transferred, or they just tapped out. It's like dating apps, but for friendships. Now let's talk about the move itself, because this is where the fantasy gets punched in the throat. A long-distance move can be brutal. One breakdown I saw had a single house move costing up to $89,000 when you add everything in, and lifetime moving costs around $214,900. Let that sink in. That's not a bit of fuel and a weekend. That's congrats. You bought a small apartment, but it's actually just your relocation bill. Then there's the supply twist. Fewer options means when you need a rental fast, you're not browsing, you're begging. Same deal with trades and repairs. Stuff that's easy in bigger places can turn into weeks of waiting because the pool is smaller and everyone's already booked out. But I'm not going to pretend it's all pain. The people who love the NT, they love it hard. The space, the nature, the no BS vibe, the feeling that nobody's performing for anyone. It's the kind of place where you can actually breathe. So here's the thing. The NT isn't where you go to save money. You go because the job is worth the chaos and you can handle the churn. And if you thought that was a weird trade, you're not ready for what's next. Number 4, South Australia. South Australia is the quiet deal state. And that sounds amazing until you get there and realize the discount comes with fine print. Not evil fine print. Just the kind that makes you go, Oh, that's what they meant by smaller market. So you get pitched Adelaide and the regions like they're this clean, sane alternative. Less traffic, less ego, homes that don't require a blood pact with the bank. You picture yourself finishing work and actually being home before your dinner gets cold, because commutes aren't a daily endurance sport there. But here's the catch. The real adjustment isn't only the job board. It's the pace. If you're used to big city hustle, SA can feel like someone set life to 0.75 times speed and then hid the remote. Emails don't get answered fast. Things take a minute. People aren't in a panic to optimize everything, and that's either healing or it drives you nuts by week 3. Now this is why families and downsizers like it. More space, simpler days, less grinding just to exist. You can do the school run and not age 10 years in traffic. Weekends feel like weekends again, not just 2 days to recover from your week. But if your work is niche, you can hit a ceiling fast. South Australia has stable key sectors that keep the state ticking, which is great, but it doesn't have the same depth and spread as the biggest cities. So if your plan is, I'll land and figure it out, you might end up refreshing Seek like it's tick-a-tech the minute a big act drops. And let's talk housing, because this is where people get sloppy. Cheaper than Sydney doesn't mean cheap. It means you're paying less than insanity. If a bunch of out-of-staters pile in chasing the calm life fantasy, locals get squeezed and suddenly you're fighting for rentals in a smaller arena. Same stress, fewer options, and the inspection line still has that awkward energy where everyone's pretending they're not desperate. Picture this. You're loving the food scene. You're doing the wine weekends. You're telling your mates you finally found balance. Then a big concert gets announced and you realize the easy night out is actually a flight, a hotel, and a whole plan. It's a different kind of cost, and it sneaks up on you because it's not in the listing photos. Here's the spreadsheet problem. Your mortgage might drop, sure. But if your income drops harder, you didn't win. You just relocated the stress and gave it a new postcode. Lower cost of living only helps if your pay doesn't take a hit that cancels it out. So be tactical. If you can bring your job remote or you're in stable sectors, SA can actually work really well. If you're betting on vibes and I'll sort it, that's risky here. South Australia is great when you arrive with a plan and your income locked, because the calm only feels calm when your bills aren't chasing you. And if you think that's a trade-off, you're not ready for what's next. Number 5, Tasmania. Tasmania is the state you fall in love with on a long weekend. And then reality taps you on the shoulder with a ferry bill and a winter power bill. It's like you bought the cute cottage DLC and forgot it comes with maintenance mode. Because the dream is strong. Hobart feels like you can breathe again. Clean air, slower days, cafes that don't act like they're doing you a favor, and streets where you can actually hear yourself think. You walk around and go, wait, is this what calm feels like? But here's the catch. Tassie got so popular it started pricing like a boutique product. Not cheap escape, more like limited edition lifestyle. The spots people want most became magnets, and locals felt it first because when demand spikes and supply is tight, the squeeze doesn't politely spread out. It hits the same postcodes again and again. Hobart gets called a lifestyle hub for a reason. People want coastal, cute, walkable, and close enough to a city that you still get decent coffee and a hospital that exists. Sounds like a dream, right? But once that wave hits, rentals tighten fast. You message about a place and it's already gone. You book an inspection and it feels like a school excursion, just adults holding folders and trying to look stable. And then you run into the practical stuff nobody brags about on Instagram. There are fewer rentals, sure, but there are also fewer trades. So when something breaks, you're not calling a guy. You're joining a waiting list and hoping your hot water system doesn't die on a Thursday. If it does, congrats. You're now boiling kettles like it's 1998. Weather is a budget item down there. Mainland folks don't price that in when they're doom-scrolling listing photos. The cold and damp are not a vibe, they're a bill. Heating runs longer. Clothes take forever to dry. And if you ignore mold, it doesn't stay ignored. It shows up like an uninvited housemate, and it's weirdly confident about it. Then there's the distance. If your work, family, or big chances are on the mainland, that separation stops being romantic after the third last-minute trip. You start thinking in flights. You start planning life around timetables. Even a quick popover can turn into a whole budget line, and suddenly you're treating travel like you're buying concert tickets. Why is it this much? But I get why people stay. If you want community, nature, and a slower daily burn, Tasmania can feel like quitting an addiction. Less noise, less flexing, more actual living. You can go for a walk and your brain stops screaming for a minute. So here's the thing. Tasmania isn't a cheap escape anymore in the popular pockets. It's a lifestyle purchase, and you pay for it in access and logistics. And if you thought that trade was intense, you're not ready for what's next. Number 6, Australian Capital Territory. So the ACT is the place you don't even think about. Until you look at your payslip, feel briefly rich, then you look at your rent and go, oh cool, I'm basically working for vibes and parking fees. Canberra pays well in the public sector. It's clean, it's tidy, it's orderly. It runs on rules and meetings and just circling back emails. It's like living in a spreadsheet with feelings, where the bins go out on the right day and nobody acts surprised when you say the word policy. But here's the catch. The floor price is high, not the fancy stuff. The basics. Housing, bills, the weekly shop, services. Even when life is stable, it's not cheap to simply exist there. And if you're not in the right income band, the place squeezes you like a stress ball. That's why the ACT gets this reputation for strong wages that somehow still don't feel like enough. Let that sink in. And it creates this bad bet vibe for buyers. You tell yourself, I'll keep earning, keep saving, I'll get in eventually. But the ACT has a way of outrunning that plan. Because when prices and costs move faster than your savings rate, time stops helping you. And the lifestyle doesn't hand you a bunch of cheap fallback options nearby either. You can't just slide 10 minutes out and magically unlock a totally different market with bargain everything. It's still Canberra, just with a longer drive and the same invoice energy. Then you get the small market squeeze. Fewer suburbs, fewer real choices, and a lot of people on similar pay scales chasing the same decent pockets. So it turns into these polite little bidding wars where everyone's smiling through their teeth. Nobody's yelling. Nobody's flipping tables. It's worse than that. It's quiet. It's thanks for coming. While you know you just got outbid by someone who also owns a Patagonia vest. Day to day, the costs stack up in a way that feels rude for a city that shuts down early and calls it normal. Childcare can hit hard. Basic services can feel pricey. You'll pay premium rates, then try to grab dinner after work, and half the options are already winding down like it's a Tuesday at 8 p.m. in a retirement village. So when people leave the ACT, it's usually not because it's falling apart. It's often because they can do the same kind of work somewhere else, or they're just done paying extra for order. And right now, with cost of living pressure being a real national thing, and overall population growth slowing faster than people expected, expensive places don't get the same free pass. The math matters more. If you're staying, be tactical. Lock housing early. Get a longer lease if you can. If you're buying, pick a commute you can actually live with, because last-minute moves in the ACT hurt the most and they hit fast. The ACT isn't collapsing. It's just unforgiving if you're not already stable, and that's why people quietly tap out and start looking for a place where cheap is at least possible. You're not ready for what's next. Number 7, Queensland, select regions. Queensland is where half of NSW thinks they're moving. And then they arrive and go, wait, why is the highway a parking lot at 7 a.m.? Because the dream is sun, space, and a house that doesn't cost your soul. The twist is, you're not the only one who had that thought. So the pitch is simple. Warmer weather, more room, and cheaper homes. Especially around southeast Queensland and those coastal strips that look amazing on a Sunday scroll. You picture early beach walks, a backyard, maybe even a spare room that isn't also your laundry. But here's what nobody tells you. Queensland didn't just get a few movers. In 2024, it pulled in over 106,000 people from other states. And after the people who left, it still ended up with a net gain of nearly 26,000. That's a whole crowd arriving with the same plan. I'll get in before it blows up. Let that sink in. And when everyone rushes the same cheap zones, they stop being cheap. The commute stretches. The good rentals get snapped up fast. And suddenly you're paying big city money while the roads and services still feel like a beach town that wasn't built for this many cars. Brisbane's the clearest tell. The median house value hit a record $1.04 million, up 7.3% over the past year. $1 million for Brisbane is the kind of sentence that would have sounded like a joke a few years ago, and now it's just Tuesday. And here's a nasty little stat. For the first time on record, vacant land in southeast Queensland is now pricier than Greater Melbourne. So if your whole plan is we'll just build, congrats, you're shopping in the premium add-on aisle. You'll also hear that Brisbane's net inflow cools at times. Sounds like relief, right? But the cooler reading can also mean Queensland is hitting its own affordability ceiling. Like, it's not that the party got calmer, it's that the entry fee went up. Zoom in on the regions people actually target. Outer growth corridors look like value until you live it. Traffic that turns a quick drop-off into a full mission. School wait lists that feel like buying concert tickets. Rentals where you show up and the agent's doing speed dating with 30 households who all swear they're very flexible. Then there's the insurance and weather catch. Flood history isn't just trivia here. It shows up in premiums and the mental load of checking storm maps like it's your morning news. You don't want to learn your suburb's drainage situation the hard way. Career reality check 2. If your job is Sydney anchored, you either go remote, if you're lucky, or you take a pay cut and hope the numbers still work when the novelty wears off. And moving isn't free. Hauling a whole life north can eat your savings in one hit. So here's the thing. Queensland still works if you pick the right pocket and you're honest about commute, insurance, and income. If you move on vibes alone, you'll hate it by month 2. And if you thought Queensland was far from home, you're not ready for what's next. Number 8, Western Australia. Select regions. Western Australia is the last boss of this whole story because it's the one place that's actually stacking people while everyone else is arguing about who's still worth it. And no, it's not just beaches and sunsets doing the heavy lifting. WA pushed past 3 million people by the end of 2024. First time ever. And it wasn't a gentle crawl either. It posted the highest growth rate in the country at 2.4%. Nearly 40,000 Australians picked WA as their new home. And after the movers going the other way, it still banked a net interstate gain of about 12,500. That's a real pull. Let that sink in. So if you're watching the map like it's a survival game, WA is the spot where the arrow points. People look at it and go, okay, that's where the jobs are, that's where you can still buy, that's where you can breathe. But here's the catch: distance and speed. When WA heats up, it heats up fast. You don't get a long, slow runway where you can think about it for 6 months and casually shop. Rents move, vacancy tightens, and suddenly you're competing with people who got in earlier and locked down the good stuff while you were still saying, we'll see how we feel after Christmas. The magnet is pretty obvious. Resources, big projects, real wages in certain pockets that don't feel like monopoly money. And Perth, on a sticker price basis, can look affordable if your brain has been wrecked by East Coast pricing. You see listings and you start doing that dangerous thing where you think you've outsmarted the system. But here's what nobody tells you. Perth sprawl is real, like aggressively real. You can buy a place that looks like a deal, and then you realize your life is now measured in minutes on the freeway. Work is far, friends are far. The cool stuff you thought you'd do on weeknights is far. You'll save money, sure, but you might also spend half your week in the car like it's your second lounge room. And moving across the country? That's not a cute reset. That's a full identity change. Flights back to see family turn into a budget line item you can't ignore, and the time zone doesn't care about your group chat. If you take anything from this, take this. The migration map is basically a stress map. People aren't moving for fun. They're moving because the numbers stopped working.